So today we're making chicken enchiladas. I personally don't order chicken enchiladas enough. I normally order tacos or fajitas. My wife always orders the green enchiladas. When I make them at home though, and we get the store-bought green enchilada or red enchilada sauce, it's never that good. It's either bitter or it's under-seasoned. So today we're gonna make the red enchilada sauce and the green enchilada sauce, so that way you never have to use that store-bought stuff again. Let's get into it. Here we go. Before we start working on these wonderful enchilada sauces, we need to create a rub for our chicken. In an empty seasoning container or large bowl, we're going to combine equal parts of garlic powder, onion powder, oregano, smoked paprika, cumin powder, coarse ground black pepper, and kosher salt. Give the seasoning rub a nice shaker mix until evenly combined, then set aside until you're ready to use. Next, let's move on to working on our chicken. I like to use a whole chicken when I'm making enchiladas. If you want to go easy, I would recommend using boneless, skinless chicken thighs, but I like to use the breast meat and the thigh meat as the protein for the enchiladas. Now, when you're cooking a whole bird, you either want to spatchcock it, which means you take out the spine, or you want to tie the legs up so it cooks evenly. The simplest way to do this is to take some butcher twine and place it under the wings, then go across the breasts and under the legs and tie it in a double knot. Now that our chicken is tied up, we're going to season with olive oil and a generous amount of our seasoning rub. Really, don't be afraid to season the chicken. Cover it all over on all sides. Trust me, you will not over season the chicken. Now we're going to rub that seasoning into the chicken, then we're going to get a shallow baking pan with a wire rack. Place the chicken on the center of the wire rack. This will help to allow airflow under the chicken to keep the skin crispy and catch the juices. Bake the chicken in the oven set to 400 degrees Fahrenheit for 1 to 2 hours, or until the internal temp is 165 degrees Fahrenheit. Next, let's move on to making our red enchilada sauce. There's 2 kinds of chilies we need for this sauce: Guajillo and Ancho Chilies. We're going to take about 4 Guajillo and 2 Ancho Chilies, remove the seeds and stems, and even though these chilies aren't that spicy, it will cut down on some of the heat. Place all the chilies in a large bowl, cover with hot water, and let steep for around 20 to 30 minutes. This will soften the chili skin and allow it to puree much easier in your blender. While the chilies are steeping, we're going to prep the rest of the ingredients for our red enchilada sauce. We're going to take 2 medium-sized tomatoes, remove the stem cores, about 3 to 4 peeled garlic cloves, 1 medium-sized onion that's been peeled, sliced in half, and then cut into quarters. We're going to wash and rinse some cilantro and optionally add a serrano pepper for some heat. Now that that's prepped, in a dry cast iron pan on medium-high heat, add all of your vegetables and let dry roast for 5 to 7 minutes. I recommend getting a nice char on the vegetables. It'll add a nice smoky flavor to the enchilada sauce. Next, in a good blender or food processor, add all of your hydrated and softened chilies. Add the roasted onion, tomatoes, garlic, Serrano chili, and just enough of the water to get it to blend. Puree the enchilada sauce until completely smooth, and keep in mind if you don't have a big blender, just go ahead and do this in small batches. Next, we're going to add a handful of cilantro, 2 teaspoons of cumin and oregano, and a big pinch of kosher salt. Add a little more liquid if needed, blend until smooth, give it a taste, and adjust the seasoning to your liking. Next, in a large pan on medium-high heat, add a little bit of oil and all of the enchilada sauce. Make sure the oil is nice and hot before you add the enchilada sauce so it immediately starts to cook. Bring the sauce to a simmer for around 10 minutes, adjust the seasoning to taste, and that's your red enchilada sauce. Now let's move on to our green enchilada sauce. To start, we need about 20 tomatillos, depending on how big they are. When you buy them from the grocery store, a lot of times they're going to have a husk attached to the tomatillo. Go ahead and remove them and then set aside. Place the tomatillos in a strainer or colander and give them a good rinse under cold water. Place the tomatillos in a pot filled with water, then place on the stove and bring to a simmer for around 10 minutes or until soft. While the tomatillos are on the stove, we're going to prep 2 poblano and 2 Anaheim peppers. Remove the stems and seeds from the peppers and set aside. Now, just like the red enchilada sauce, we're going to optionally add 1 serrano pepper with the stem and seeds removed. Place all of the peppers on a baking sheet lined with parchment paper and season with olive oil and a little bit of salt. Roast in the oven set to 425 degrees Fahrenheit for around 20 minutes or until the skin starts to separate and blister. Place the peppers in a large bowl and cover with plastic wrap. Let the peppers steam for around 20 minutes to help separate the skins. Peel the peppers and chop nice and fine, then set aside. Next, in a blender or food processor, add your tomatillos that have been softened, all of your roasted and chopped peppers, the remaining half of a sweet onion, 3 garlic cloves, and some cilantro. Blend until smooth, give it a taste, and season with salt and pepper to your liking. Now, just like the red enchilada sauce, in a pan on medium heat, add a little bit of oil and all of your enchilada sauce. Make sure the oil is nice and hot so the enchilada sauce immediately starts to cook when it hits the pan. Season with salt and let simmer for around 10 minutes, and that's your green enchilada sauce. So our chicken has been roasting for about 1 to 2 hours. We're going to place it on the cutting board and separate the thighs and the breasts. Once the chicken is cooled enough that you can can handle it with your hands, go ahead and shred the thigh and the breast meat together. You can keep the meat separate if you choose, but I find it's a better texture if you mix them. Now let's talk tortillas. You could use flour, but traditionally you would use a corn tortilla. Heat some vegetable oil to 350 degrees Fahrenheit and fry the tortilla slightly for around 30 seconds. This will help to tighten up the tortilla so it doesn't rip when you roll your enchiladas. Place the fried tortilla on a baking sheet lined with paper towel to drain off the excess oil. So now we're ready to move on to making our enchiladas. We're going to start with the red enchiladas first. Take 3 or 4 tortillas, dunk them in the enchilada sauce, and place them on a plate. Roll each enchilada with a little bit of chicken and Monterey Jack cheese. So you have some options here. If your enchiladas are hot, go ahead and just enjoy them with some sauce and toppings, but if they're not, you can place them in the oven just to melt the cheese and enjoy them warm. We're going to plate about 3 or 4 enchiladas onto the plate with a generous amount of our red enchilada sauce, a drizzle of sour cream, some Cotija cheese, cilantro, a lime wedge, and that's our red enchiladas. Now let's move on to our green enchiladas. So the process is the same. We're going to dip our tortillas in the green enchilada sauce, add some chicken and Monterey Jack cheese, roll them up nice and tight, and repeat the process with the rest of our enchiladas. Now we're going to serve 3 or 4 enchiladas on the plate, followed by a generous amount of our green enchilada sauce, top it with Cotija cheese, finally diced onion, jalapeno, cilantro, and a lime wedge. And now we've made our red and green enchiladas. Enjoy. So there you have it. We made our chicken enchiladas. We did the red sauce. We did the green sauce. And when you have them both side by side, I can finally say that I like the red sauce better. Now, I know I said my wife liked the green sauce, but I think after she tried both, she's actually on team red sauce now. Now that you guys know how easy it is to make your own enchilada sauce, I never want you guys to use that store-bought stuff again. Leave me a comment. Let me know which one's your favorite. If you enjoyed this video or you learned something, give us a like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.